This surely is a chapter of Four Knights of the Apocalypse. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact. You ever seen somebody snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, only to open the jaws of defeat right back up and then shove victory right down, and I mean down the throat of defeat, and make sure it swallows them and processes them fully? Well, let me tell you. Oh, I believe I've seen it. But let's not waste any more time. Oh my heart. We're not wasting more time. Let's hop right into chapter 216 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Not of the Ababalaba. Not the Four Knights of the Apocalypse. A secret revealed. Two secrets revealed, in fact. Well, I suppose, no. I now understand why the... Nakava, you silly fiend. I now understand why the chapter is labeled what the chapter is. But we gotta focus on the bright side, right? The bright side of everything. The bright side is there's like a 33-minute live reaction. We can check it over on Patreon for as $1 month. You can remember for as well $3 month. You can live reaction to this chapter. But also, look at how beautiful this this cover page is. The only thing that I will admit is weird for how amazing and immaculate my handsome, glorious, legendary, juice, thick, scrumptious King Escanor looks. Look at the build, look at the pecs, look at the abdominals, look at the striation, look at the flaming fire on the one hand, the coat clean, buttery, smooth, delicious, scrumptious. Why did Nakaba forget to draw Merlin's lipstick? Like it just looks weird. Like, I was just trying to say, it looks weird. Like, it would take 2 seconds. Nakaba, I know you work alone, dog. And I'm assuming, like, what does Nakaba work on first? I think if it's a chapter cover like this that, like, doesn't correlate at all, or, like, it correlates with the chapter but loosely, he may work on this last. But, like, I don't know, man. You did all of her armor detailing. Like, none of that's missing. You did her dress detailing. In fact, you did complicated version of dress detailing. You didn't have to crosshatch it like you usually do, but he crosshatched this, he crosshatched the hair. And you didn't give her lipstick. Like, she looks so young here without the lipstick. It's the same thing that I pointed out with Gila, like, 2 or 3 chapters ago, where, like, Gila with lipstick actually does look older. Gila without lipstick looks way younger. Same case for Merlin here. She just looks a little bit weird without the lipstick. But still, a nice cover page. You know, the sin of pride and the sin of gluttony. And I'm staying together. I don't think... Like, this is presumably a reference back to when they were specifically fighting Chandler, Cusack, and Zeldris. I'm guessing, because this is the same outfit Merlin wore during that, I would call it an arc, like the pre-DK Mel arc, and just the Camelot invasion arc. I believe they wore these outfits, or Escanor very specifically after the fight with Meliodas in 232, I'm pretty sure. He wore this fit, and it lasted. Of course, there's no Rita here, but still, I get it. You know, you just want to focus on the focal point of the 2 characters, and they look really, really good. So, a nice W cover page, but... Coming to the chapter itself, and naturally we're continuing right where we left off, where go through here's the truth, and it's like, what? There's a way to fight back against chaos? Is that true? And naturally everyone's like, it is. Why would I lie about something like that? Come on, Gotha. You know I'm kind of good with the sauce when it comes to being the ultimate giga amazing legendary plot device character that Nakaba uses to write the plot however he feels like it, because ultimately he doesn't have any plexus to save his life. I didn't say all that. I said 2 words. Who's speaking through me with this voice of mine? But we see that naturally Gotha's like, hello, tell me about it. And you know it's serious because Gotha's literally sweating. He may be looking at me and be like, hey, Pencil Man, how on earth is Gotha sweating? Your guess is as good as mine. I got nary. He's a doll. Not only is he a doll, he's just a head right now. How on earth is he sweating? I don't know. But that man is sweating. And he says, tell me about it. And Merlin says, I'm sorry, but I can't right here. Now, admittedly, I'll get into it later. I've already sort of dropped my complaints about Merlin, and I do appreciate that I'm not alone on not really liking Merlin. At least seemingly, in the poll I ran the week prior, while there was a little confusion, which I forgot to reply, but there's a little confusion on whether or not, like, the four sins that appeared in the chapter, whether it's meant to be their appearance in the chapter or their entire series. It was meant to be the entire series. And seemingly everyone did agree with your boy. The least popular, the least liked said is Merlin. She is the least favorite of the four sins that were featured, which were Meliodas, Escanor, Gother, and Merlin herself. And I really don't like Merlin because she definitely just feels like a plot device character that gets away with way too many really, 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 really bad things. Real bad things. Real bad things. But with it being the case, she says, I'm sorry, but I can't right here. Oh, but I bring that up, right? Because Merlin is a plot device character. Like, the character who will have whatever magic perfectly required for this scenario to do this, that, and the third, because she's the perfect character who can do literally anything and everything whenever she needs to. But you mean to tell me you can't just give Gother the information through, like, a mind transfer? I know, presumably Nakba may go through her head here, so Gother can't just tap that link to whatever mental connection she's on and then, like, drain the information. But, like, you tell me Merlin doesn't have a single mental magic spell where she could transfer that information without saying it out loud? Really? Really? She had a spell to stop time conveniently, which she sandbagged on, but she doesn't have a spell to transfer information? Really? Really? Okay. But we see that Gother's actually like, what? Why not? Which, sorry, I don't know. Gother, I need to listen to Seven Deadly Smocks more. I want to take that Gother voice. Or do you still listen to dub Gother? I haven't watched or listened to Seven Deadly Sins anime in forever. And when was the last time there was a Seven Deadly Smocks episode? Hold on. Sorry, I'm completely breaking out the air, but their Gother voice is fantastic, and it's not even like notably it's not even robotic. It's not even really monotone. It's that's episode 2. Let me see where. There's no way it's been 5 years. There's no way it's been 5 years. There's no way it's been 5. Am I tweaking? Am I tweaking? There's no way it's been 5. Ooh. Hold on. Did the channel explode or something? Oh yeah, no. Yeah, it didn't explode. There we go. I'm about to say I'm literally subbed. When was their last English Schmucks episode? I think it's been a while. Yeah, a whole year. It's been a whole year. But then again, they moved on to other abridged, and the other abridged are doing better from what it looks like. Except for Abridged doesn't seem to be doing too well. Well, relative to their side. But essentially, my point is they have a fantastic Gother voice, and I want to mimic that, but I haven't listened to it clearly in like a year, so I don't have that Gother voice downloaded. So I will try to do that because Gother has a very unique voice. Like it's not actually robotic. It's just a little bit flatter. What? Why not? You never know where the servants of Camelot might be hiding. Ears honed in on us. Now, Merlin does admittedly bring up a good point here, right? Like the idea that Camelot is pretty much always listening. Now, I will admit, especially without Merlin, I do wonder, like, how? Like, what? We don't really have enough of a scope of Camelot's, like, forces. Camelot's forces are kind of whatever they need to be for the plot, right? Because Camelot is literally an extra dimensional realm with actual extra pocket dimensions in it. We don't really have a size or note for its like actual scale or like how many people are in there or what's going on in it. Like we just don't have all that. So it is definitely weird to think about Camelot scale, but it is feasible considering how the diversity and variety of magics we've seen from Camelot. Just seeing like part 1. Part 2 definitely watered it down a bit in terms of like how many different magics we've seen. But remember Macduff's magic, remember Teniac's magic, remember like all the 4 evils and their unique magics. Disavowing Worldane because she's a mage, so she has a bunch of different magic. But like Talisker, Arbeg, like we had a bunch of different types of magic. So it's not impossible that there could be a human in Camelot who has the ability to monitor Leonis without ever being captured. It could be like an invisibility thing, could be like they can place their ear somewhere. So I don't blame Merlin for being extra cautious, but I do blame Merlin for not using a mentalist spell to transfer the information anyway, because hiding it right now when the whole point is defeating Camelot is kind of stupid. But Merlin is also, as a character, is kind of stupid. But with that being the case, we see that Gother's actually like, okay, it's that much of a game changer then. Which, naturally, it has to be, right? If she's not willing to communicate it at all and not willing to use a mental spell to give the information to Gother, the sort of brains of the operation, that is currently not Merlin, it must be huge. And we get a statement from Merlin that is very interesting. And she says, it has enough power to deal a fatal blow to the chaos and lay waste to all of Camelot in a single instant. Now, that is a huge statement. And you may be like, What do you mean it's a huge statement? I mean, obviously it would ruin the plot, but like, it's a huge power scaling statement. Now, admittedly, you're definitely looking at a guy who loves Fortnite towards power scaling, but also really likes the character and writing work most of the time. But in this case, this is huge because if it truly would lay waste to all of Camelot, and like Camelot as in like the realms of Camelot, like that whole subspace, or like not even really a subspace, that whole separate space which has countless realms, or not countless, but like a whole bunch of realms that have like starry skies and galaxies in them, and all that will be wiped out in an instant with this game changer information. I mean, it's not necessarily upscale, but it certainly don't hurt. It certainly don't hurt. It just reaffirms everything and feeds into the idea that things are created in an instant with chaos powers, and that's a big meaty feat. And in fact, I need to go in the many things I need to plan to do for next year, especially for the possible third channel. I'm not sure. In fact, we'll see. Would y'all want versus battles to come back here? Do you want me to just make a separate channel for the versus battles? I'm tempted to make a separate channel because like I always have like 7 reviews I'm usually doing a week now. Like that I don't know, it'd be weird if there's still a versus battle in one day because it would delay things, it would knock things off. So I may make like that guy with a battle or something. Like I'll see. Let me make a separate channel for that, and then like also do content such as the versus battle wiki reviews because hey, I've seen it. Some of y'all been putting in work over there. We getting upskills of Doom over there. Still gotta work on the speed stuff, but still we can work with that. And ultimately, that's because things have just gotten that much stronger, and they've gotten so much stronger that the eternally island level verse has just been getting infinitely amped over there. So I do need to do updated reviews, but I may have to do that on another channel. With it being the case, we see that Gother hits the 3 exclamation points, and you know it's serious. If it wasn't too serious, he'd hit 2. If it was barely serious at all, he'd only hit 1. And Gother's like, but does that truly exist? Which obviously it does sound crazy, right? They've been fighting Camelot for bare minimum 3 years. Probably way more before that, considering, you know, the whole nature of Grudge of Edinburgh technically being an extension of the whole Camelot War thing. So, it's actually been a long time of them battling Camelot. And if they've had this answer this entire time, the idea that they haven't used it seems crazy. But naturally, you know, we can't focus too much on the massive macro plot. We still have to focus on the micro plot. The micro plot including, if not being limited to, Gawain, and the fact that she just got the fact that she has been living with her mommy and daddy for a long time without actually knowing they're her mommy and daddy. And she says, that stuff doesn't matter at all. Let's get back to the original problem here. She clenches her fists. She's getting real nettled. And she says, Why? Why did you not tell me you were my parents until just now? Which, admittedly, a very valid response from Gawain. Like, I can't imagine that. Like, I'm trying to think. But notably, it's extra special for Gawain because, like, you know, magical world. I can't imagine, like, my own parents would come to me one day and be like, oh yeah, basically, we were never actually your parents. Your grandparents, they were actually your parents. They just had you real late and, like, they passed you off to us. Like, it was real. It was a whole messy thing. But, like, just so you know, so we can get this all of our content. And I'd be like, why? But, you know, in my world, in my case, it would be, like, way more random. But especially in Gawain's case, it is not just random, but also very detrimental, considering she didn't actually get to grow up in a two-parent household like I did. She had to just have Kay, and while Kay was clearly still a loving father, it doesn't compare to it, you know, actually living, presumably under the belief, because she calls Kay her actual father. She doesn't call him stepfather or anything like that. She doesn't even know that she was adopted. In fact, she thought quite the opposite. She thought presumably the grandma doll and grandpa doll, like, produced Kay, I guess, and then she was produced from Kay and presumably a mother who have perished off screen. So Gawain may have been unintentionally. It doesn't get tackled here, and I doubt we'll ever tackle it. She's not going to tackle anything really interesting with the character, but I doubt it. But Gawain may have even been carrying the idea that she may have slain her own mother in childbirth, because Gawain, especially by the way the chapter goes, under the assumption that she was born naturally, but her parents. Her mother isn't there, only her father is. Her father was Kay. So she has possibly been living in the assumption that she had slain her own mother in childbirth, and she had just grown up with Kay, and she had felt guilty about that, and she already had her own complexions about herself and why she felt weird and couldn't feel love. Like, she had so many issues already on top of that, and now she's learning that all those issues could have been either answered or only existed while her parents were 2 feet away, just not telling her that they were her parents. And we see Merlin playing a bit coy and or rude and or just being a terrible person like Merlin always is, as she says, didn't you not want to hear about it? Which, Merlin, I know you don't do this mother thing very often, but since you brought Gawain into the world, I think you should do the bare minimum of actually treating her like an individual and not patronizing her. And we even see Escanor being like, come on, Merlin, please. Stop being such a meanie stupid head. I'd do something to you, but I'm not even real. And we see that naturally Gawain has, once again, lived under the assumption that Kay is her real biological father. And she says, so who's Kay? My father! Which she's lived under, right? She thinks Arthur is her uncle. She thinks Kay is her real, genuine biological father. And we see Escanor take over a little bit of explanation. She says, your foster father, I suppose. Which, I suppose, it is the case. And we see that Merlin reveals, as I said before, we were both facing certain circumstances, and that's why we entrusted you to Kay. But I will admit, I mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. Escanor is my favorite character from Seven Deadly Sins. I love a lot of characters, and like, admittedly, if it's not Escanor, it's one of the Sun users, right? It's Escanor or Mael. And I know a lot of the people who know me as the anti-Mael guy in the scaling sense are like, really? You like Mael? Then almost every other character has something weird about them that I kind of just don't like. And even Escanor has like a weird thing, like his reaction to Kid Merlin, but like that, I think he just finds her adorable there. He's not actually attracted to Kid Merlin, I don't believe. I hope. But Escanor, like, of all the Seven Deadly Sins, like, Gothar's cool. Like, Gothar, he has this weird thing. Like, Meliodas is cool. Yeah, he's a little bit too much of a weirdo for your boy. But Elaine, Bond's fantastic. I'm not really into size gap. It's not a thing for me. I just think it's weird. And here's the thing: if Gawain was like just more mature looking, and she was just petite, or if she was just taller. If Gawain was just taller, King got to be tall. Why did Elaine to be? But regardless, that aside. Bond, the Elaine thing is just weird to me. And that's a weird me specifically thing, right? Like, I know some people look at Bond and Elaine and don't care at all. For me, it's weird. Elaine looks like a child. Bond does not look like it. It's just weird. King, I do really like King. King has, like, literally no issues. He's just not the most interesting of characters to me. Not in the same way that Escanor is. So, like, I just like Escanor more. Diane. Poor Diane. Barely gets any time in her own narrative. Really rough. Just a focal point or piece for other characters, so not really a thing. Elizabeth, once again, just doesn't really live up to her potential as a character, and that leaves Merlin. I just don't like Merlin for a variety of reasons, which we'll get into soon enough. I even predate this chapter, but this chapter really doesn't help. But all of that being said, all of that, we're gonna roll that around all of that. Escanor's my favorite. And ultimately, I don't think he had a lot of autonomy here. She says, we entrusted you to Kay. But notably, in the flashback we see here with Kay, Escanor's not there. In fact, he's nowhere nearby. As we see, that Merlin explains, his wish was to make up for his past mistakes with Arthur, his brother-in-law. I'm going to assume this is a translation thing. Arthur shouldn't be his brother-in-law. I don't think that's how that works. He's just his adopted brother, Arthur. Because Arthur didn't, like, when you are a brother-in-law, that means you're, like, married into a family. As a man, you marry into the family, whether you marry a son or a daughter. That's when you become a brother-in-law. Or son and daughter or non-binary person. You marry into a family, that's typically when you become a brother-in-law. But Arthur didn't marry into the family. He was just adopted by the previous Pendragon ruler, then choosing to be the king over Kay. I don't think it was, like, adopted. Or no, I don't think he was, like, married into the family or anything like that. Because Arthur was a kid when he became the next king of Camelot, right? Like, that was the whole thing. So, that's just a translation thing. But we see that Kay felt guilt, and Merlin says, he was the first to notice the changes in Arthur, and so he asked me for help. Now, I do wonder what this means. Like, where does this take place timeline-wise? Like, very specifically, I'm talking about the creation of Gawain here. Because Merlin will go on to say 18 years. Does she say it here? No. She says 18 years. Like, there's a couple of timeline things that are weird about this chapter, which feel free to help. You will understand it. But a couple things about this chapter timeline-wise that are a little bit weird. First things first, when was Gawain born? Because if Kay was the first to notice changes in Arthur, it had to be over 18 years ago. Because Gawain at most looks a few months old here. If not, like, she looks basically like a newborn. So, when was this? Because 18 years passed isn't actually, like, I'm thinking of the end of Seven Deadly Sins as in, like, the defeat of the Demon King and Cath battle. I forget how much time passes between the death of the Demon King and the Cath battle. I think it has to be at least a week, because they aren't, I don't think they're drained from power limit break anymore. I forget, I need to reread. But timeline-wise, it's weird. Like, she must have Gawain pretty much instantly, right? Because it is an 18-year time skip, because it's a 16-year time skip between the end of Seven Deadly Sins and, or no, it's really a 6-year time skip from the end of Seven Deadly Sins. I believe Tristan's 10th birthday is the final chapter. So it's like a 6-year time skip. But Meliodas, or no, Elizabeth is pregnant with Tristan, and Elaine is pregnant with Lance in like the penultimate chapter of Seven Deadly Sins. I'm pretty sure. But we know they aren't pregnant by Cursed by Light. And Cursed by Light takes place, I believe, 6 months after the Battle with Kath and the death of the Demon King. I think it's 6 months after. Right? Am I right about that? I think it's 6 months after. So we know that Elizabeth, like, she may have not been showing, but I don't think Elizabeth or Elizabeth, and like notably, like the Nasians would have, like, Diane would also be pregnant with Nasians, I think, for the timelines to line up. I'm like squeezing all this timeline information. I may just have to make a Seven Deadly Sins timeline video because I need it for myself, because for Gawain to be born, it can't, like, she can't have been born 18 years ago exactly. Because 18 years ago, exactly, like, unless the 18-year time skip takes place from, like, the point of Cursed by Light, because Elizabeth wasn't pregnant there, neither was Diane, and neither was Elaine. I don't think any of them were pregnant in that movie, so it has to be after that. And then that's where, like, the penultimate chapter, Seven Deadly Sins, takes place, where we see Elaine and Elizabeth heavily pregnant. And then nobody, but the thing is, Diane also isn't pregnant by the end of Seven Deadly Sins. At least she isn't showing pregnant. I don't know. But then again, end of Seven Deadly Sins is like 10 years after, like, maybe most of the kids are already born by then. Maybe that's why Diane wasn't pregnant. But King and Diane talk about their kids sparring with, like, I don't know, it's weird. I'm trying to, like, couple timelines together. Because Kay is given a very, very young Gawain. And Merlin says, then could you raise this child for me as your daughter? One day she'll be the Knight of Prophecy. She'll be a Knight of Prophecy who can rescue Arthur. But that's my whole point, right? The reason I brought the timeline, I'm questioning it, I'm wondering things based on when Gawain was born, when Merlin was not even pregnant, because we'll find out she created Gawain. Is this meant to imply that the Arthur at the end of Cursed by Light isn't the real Arthur? And you may be wondering, what do you mean by real Arthur Pencil? What do you mean by real Arthur Pencil? And you know exactly what I mean. But is that not meant to be the real Merlin? I think she speaks at the end of I need to rewatch Cursed by Light. It's been too long. I need to rewatch Cursed by Light because I generally don't remember. Because if he was the first to notice the changes, Merlin, how did you not notice the changes? And how did you escape if it wasn't the real Arthur? What, like? Oh, I hate the end of this chapter. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not. But the timeline is a little bit weird. Another thing's weird about the timeline. One day she'll be a Knight of Prophecy, one who can rescue Arthur. What does that mean? Unless I'm mistaken, I thought the Four Knights Prophecy was something recent. Like, and by recent, I mean like 2 years ago recent. Like, I thought it was new. Gawain is a baby here. The prophecy shouldn't have been said yet. Unless I'm mistaken, maybe I literally have recently done a reread of Four Knights, but maybe I need to hit another one. Because I thought the prophecy was like something that would happen in the last decade. Gawain's a baby here, and she's 18, same age as the rest of the cast. So, like, how does Merlin know this? Did she see like, how does she know that that's the case? And why was she still here and even contactable by Kay? Like, I have so many. It's so weird because Merlin's a weird character who's horribly written and only exists to make the plot move in certain ways because Nakama can't. I'm sorry, going real man. But we see that Kay agrees to raise Gawain, who will be another. I don't know how Merlin knows this though. Four Knights wasn't a thing. Wait, no. Actually, maybe it was. Actually, hold on. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Well, actually, no. Am I wrong about that or am I not? I'm trying to think, because I believe Tristan knew about, like, his great divine purpose, but was it that he was going to save Arthur? But no, that Tristan was still a kid, right? Like, he wasn't a baby when that was given to him. Like, when did I forget when. If someone can remind me, when did the Four Knights Prophecy come about? I could have sworn it was, like, 5 years ago at the time of the current narrative. Not in the time of this flashback, like 5 years ago in the time of the current narrative, like, Tristan, like, I'm pretty sure the Four Knights Prophecy came out after Grudge of Edinburgh, like, in the timeline. And we know Tristan and Lance were about 13 in that movie. I'm pretty sure the prophecy came out after that. Right? I'm thinking. Because I don't even think Lance knew the prophecy when he first ended up in the world beyond with the Lady of the Lake when he was 10. I don't think the prophecy was a thing then yet either. So, no, the timeline is very weird. Why did she know that? And when did she create Gawain, and why was she still contactable by Arthur, not in this other realm, if fake Arthur was already a thing? I don't, it's a mess. But we see, well, it may not be a fake Arthur, who knows what it'll be. I'm assuming it's a fake Arthur. But we see that Kay solemnly agrees to this task while he's looking younger, and Merlin says, I was wise to leave you to him. He was no natural, but as he raised you, he gave you more love than I ever anticipated. Which is nice, for, Kay truly, he wasn't the stepfather, he was the father that stepped up here. He took to raising Gawain the best he could. And I'm assuming that's because Kay had nothing, right? Like, ultimately, from what little we know of Kay as a character, he lost everything when Arthur originally came and became king. And he was so vindictive and spiteful that he pushed away anyone he could have. So Gawain was his hope of, like, experiencing and giving love. Kay wasn't laying pipe at nobody, so he might as well at least raise the product of a love that he could never experience. And we see that Merlin says, I needed to remove myself from this world in order to protect a certain secret. A certain secret, indeed. Not that any excuse in the world could cover for my failures as a mother. And this is very true. Because, why even make Gawain? Why even make Gawain if you knew you weren't going to raise her? Why would you do that? Why would you do, did she think, once again, the timeline comes into question. Like, did she think she was actually going to have the chance to raise Gawain? Like, what, I guess my question is, what if Kay never came to Merlin, right? Would she have just left Gawain on the side of the road somewhere? Would she have given her to Meliodas and have Meliodas, right? Like, what was the plan then? Because it seems like a certain bit of chance. But, like, what was the plan with Gawain then? Because I'm assuming what happened is she made Gawain pretty much immediately, especially considering what we see based on later on in this chapter. Like, she made Gawain pretty much immediately, and then Gawain probably got, to a few months, and then Arthur began not Arthuring as much, and then she realized she needed to leave? So, what was the plan with Gawain? Was she just gonna, change her and just leave her somewhere? What was the plan if Kay didn't exist, or didn't come to her? Was she gonna force him on Kay? I don't know. Merlin just definitely seems a character who'd just be doing things without anyone else's consent and or care, and causing a whole bunch of problems because of it. And we see that Gawain just seems to be a bit lost for words, and Balin naturally asks, okay, so you're a powerful mage, but then what about you, her father? And Escanor says, oh, well, in my case, I'm already dead. This body was created by Merlin to serve as a vessel for my soul, you see. So, admittedly, I talk about how Escanor's my favorite character, and one of my favorite things about Escanor is that he died. And you may be like, what? That's how do you want one of your favorite characters to get boned? I like when my characters suffer. And I also like when my characters have a solid ending conclusion. And that usually ends in narrative. Is usually the end in narratives. And Escanor perishing seemed to be a perfect wrap-up point. Him burning up his life for his friends was perfect thematically for the character, perfect this, perfect that. So when Escanor was first revealed to be alive, you can go back over on Patreon or become a member to go back to the live reaction where I reaction to Escanor being alive. Or you can go back to the review and you see how disappointed I was in him being alive, and I was hoping it was very conditional. So it clearly is conditional. Escanor is dead. It's just his soul is in that thing. There is no real Escanor body lying around. Merlin is still real. There still is a real Merlin body, but there is no Escanor body. Escanor's soul is just trapped in this. A bone dinosaur. Now, Merlin. You know what? No, I'll save the critique. Well, just remember, Merlin can create life. I want you to put this in your head. Merlin can create life. She can even create life using Escanor as a basis. Remember this. This is going to come back to haunt us. And talk about how Merlin's a terrible character. Remember. Let's write this into our heads. Merlin can create life. She can create biomass that is self-sustaining. She can create life. I want you to remember this. This body was created by Merlin to serve as a vessel for my soul, you see. I hope he consented to that. I hope... did she break into the capital of death? I mean, Escanor loves Merlin, so he probably just went with it. But, Escanor, you were completely... and you didn't tell anybody. You never told anybody. You were still, do you know how many your friends cared for you? But regardless, you see that naturally Gawain hears the news and is like, Dead? And Escanor says, yes, thanks to my feckless behavior, I cannot ever directly hug you. But I hope at least to be able to care for you. Merlin can create life. Merlin can create life. Merlin can create biological life using Escanor as a basis. Remember this. Remember this. In fact, you don't even have to remember. We're going to go into it right now. We see Merlin in the doll form look and say, Escanor, your father died see, that's the thing. Died 18 years ago. The Four Knights probably didn't exist 18 years ago, I don't think. But Escanor, your father, died 18 years ago, right after defeating the Demon King in the Holy War. He burned up his very life for the sake of the world and his friends. And as I watched him burn away in the flames of his own creation, I felt a sense of loneliness. I felt a sense of loss like nothing I'd ever experienced before. We do know this, if you'll remember, the reason Merlin has these burns is because she did kiss Escanor before he went, and she permanently burned herself. But she watched his flames go away. Now, I don't ever remember... You know what? For the silly of it, I don't ever remember her doing this, but I am a very silly Billy. I'm the silliest of Billies that could ever Billy. So, what I'm about to do is... I'm about to run to that chapter and check if she actually did grab. Maybe she did. I feel like part of my heart is saying, like, did she actually just straight up grab a piece? Not you, Arthur. Not yet. Not that either. End of an era. There it is. End of an era. Wait, no, not end of an era. Overheating his scars. Let's see. Kisses him. Things go. Yep, so we do have this. Yeah. Meliodas says sleep well, Escanor. Okay, so I'm literally looking at chapter 333. And we see her kiss him. She burns. I wasn't able to return your feelings, but the least I could do is burn to my flesh, proof that you existed, proof of the only man to ever love me. Escanor burns. And she does extend her hand. So Nakaba technically did set this up. We just don't see her catch a piece of Escanor. But she does extend her hand as his ashes burn away. So that actually is consistent. It's not like a new thing that's being introduced. Merlin, in fact, does she have the exact same look on her face? Not exactly, but still. It's close enough that actually is what happened in chapter 333. But we see Merlin say this. So, I took a piece of flesh from Escanor's body and mixed it with that of my own. And both Dubs and Gother look at her like, you did what? And Gother even says, no. Thus, I broke a strict taboo. Gawain, you were never raised within my body. You were created through the use of a forbidden spell. Merlin can create life. And maybe like, how does this feed into Merlin being a terrible character? Why didn't she make Escanor an actual body? You may be like, well, she couldn't make Escanor an actual body because then, Chaos would have found that Escanor was still alive. Maybe would have done something about it. Yeah. But why did she not make Escanor an actual body and take that body to the separate realm that she's in right now? She can create whole new sentient life. She essentially baby-trapped Escanor with his own DNA beyond his consent. She can clearly take pieces of his ashes and form them into... Why did she not make him a new body? You were willing to break the taboo of life in order to create a daughter. You were willing to break the taboo of breaking, presumably, into the capital of the dead. Like, literally, chapter 333 ends with Meliodas saying, rest, sleep well, Escanor. As in, like, he expects them to just go to the capital of the dead and live out the rest of his day. You literally did that. You took his soul and everything, and instead of actually giving the one man to ever love you, the one man that you felt anything about, the one man that maybe made you, for at least half a second guess your stupid plan to release chaos, you gave him this physical form? A barely functional, or like a functional, but barely humanoid dinosaur dragon head body. Oh, I know it's a reference to the original series. We've seen this in the original, but still. Why would you not give the one man you love an actual physical form when you're fully capable of doing it? Why? Because Merlin's a terrible person and a bad character. Like, a bad as in, like, she's a bad person and like in narrative canonically a bad person, and also just, like, a bad, really written character. Because you can't introduce the idea that Merlin can literally create life in the same chapter and then explain to me that she didn't give Escanor a real body. Yeah, he just needs to keep his soul in a puppet instead of actually giving him a new physical form. Why? Huh? Ironside was able to give beings physical forms. Admittedly, through the sacrifice of another. But you can tell me how evil and destructive Merlin is. She couldn't sacrifice the body. Like, why does Escanor not have a real form? That I don't like it. I don't like it. It sickens me. This chapter sickens me in a lot of ways. We're about to get to it. But we see that Gawain was created through the use of a written spell. Merlin can create life. She didn't create life for her hubby or her boy toy. Literally, at this point. In this case, because he's in a puppet, literal boy toy to have an actual body. But she created life to give birth. Presumably, once again, I'm not sure if she did this before or after consulting Escanor. We don't know timeline-wise. She's in this outfit, which is still like her end of Seven Deadly Sins outfit, when she's making Gawain. But we see, when she has Gawain, she's in a completely different outfit. I'm not sure if this is meant to imply that she's, like, feeding Gawain right now. Because let's see. She's snoring. No, yeah, I think she... No, she's even just stroking Gawain's head here. So she's not, like, feeding Gawain or anything. This is a completely different outfit. So it's like this took place later. Before she imbued out... Like, I'm not sure if Escanor was imbued into that puppet yet. It doesn't look like he was, like... I don't see him standing around and be like, yeah, make us a daughter. Like, she just took Escanor, made a daughter, and then forced... It's like, literally, she inverse weird baby trapped Escanor, which is weird. I know Escanor's probably happy with it. He is, but, like... Why do it? Why? Once again, tell me why write it this way? There are a lot of times where I'm sitting here and I'm going to say, why write it this way? But, we see that Merlin says, I feared learning this would make you abandon yourself to despair. So to avoid that, we kept this a secret. Once again, Merlin, did Escanor have a choice in the matter? Did he really? Once again, Escanor, he feels a lot like a toy. Like, alright, you wanted him, so you brought him back, you put him in a toy body, didn't actually give him a new physical form, and you made a child with him without actually allowing him the consent to make a child. Like, once again, it feels weird. Maybe I'm just meant to assume, oh, you know, Escanor was cool with all this, it was immediately revived afterwards, but like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem that way. It's just like, he cannot have been revived in between the death of the Demon King and the release of Chaos. It has to have taken place after that. Like, we would have seen it. Like too little. Like, unless you think Escanor was revived within that very same week, he was alive, and then see, that makes it even more. Merlin revived Escanor before the release of Chaos and didn't tell anybody. If that's the case, if it took place in between the week that was like Cath, the release of Chaos, or whatever time, I forget what time. I'm saying a week because I know they were supposedly tired after a week for Power Limit Break, and then they fight Cath and seemingly aren't tired. But like, that's the thing. Unless she revived him then. She had, regardless is a bad thing, right? She revived Escanor post Chaos's release, and then didn't tell anybody for years. Any of her friends who very deeply cared about Escanor would love to meet him again. Gowther literally brings up, yes, I'm so happy to see you again, Escanor. It's nice to finally see you. And or she did it in the week, and then still released Chaos anyway. So she had the one man that she loved, possibly made a baby in that time with said man, possibly with or without his consent, and then still released Chaos anyway? Merlin, you just suck. And we see that Balin is like, Gawain, I don't know what to even say. Which obviously he assumes like them is gonna make her despair. But notably, I don't get it. Like, what would like Gawain exists? She's happy to exist. Why would she suddenly give into despair if she knew she wasn't like created organically, or like normally organically? Oh no, she's made with magic. What a terrible, like, I don't know. I'm essentially, I equate Gawain's experience to like having a surrogate mother, like IVF in a way, in vitro fertilization, I believe, like where, you know, just, or like essentially like when a woman decides that, like, notably it's different though, because by men giving up the stuff they need to make a baby, and then a woman going to a bank in order to get that in order to make a baby, like technically the consent is given there, and I know you can choose like whether or not you can be contacted by whatever your biological child may end up being or not whenever you donate to one of those places. But I think that's what Gawain is. I don't know why this was like such a big bad thing, especially when so many other things are normalized within this universe. Trust me, we're gonna get to it in a second. But we see Gawain doesn't care at all. She's like, no, so I truly am special after all. I always wondered why I wasn't like all those other morons. Now look at me, I'm on a whole nother level. So she does seem happy about that at first, but then she realizes, oh wait, I wasn't created organically. And then she starts to blame her quote-unquote issues on something else. So she says, so that's what it is. I was made, and that's why I'm not able to love anyone else. And this is the sad part. Remember, a big part. Nagaba, why you just want to cut your nose off to split your face, Nagaba? Sorry. A big part of Gawain's character is this idea that she, one, likes women, and two, doesn't have the capacity to feel love. She feels strange in regards to other people. And she starts to blame it on the fact that she was made and not born in a typical way. But It's going to be written in one way, and Ballin almost gets it right in the way that I would want it written, where she just doesn't know love because she was very inexperienced and locked away with just Kay and her grandparents for so long, or her real parents. As Ballin says, that's not true. And Gawain says, no need to deny it, Ballin. And Ballin says, you are loved by a great many people. How can that be true if you don't have anyone in love, any love within you? That's one way to put it, but notably, instead of that, if I were Ballin, I would have said, Gawain, you love your friends. And we love you as well. That is more than proof enough that you are more than capable of love. That I think is more true to the point and could go well with the character. And we see Ballin, like, this does seem to get a response out of Gawain that seems positive as she goes, Ballin. But that would have been better, right? The idea that Gawain just didn't know love because she was very inexperienced. In the same way that Percy didn't know anything but familial love because he was very inexperienced. They lived very sheltered and small lives. And in fact, a fantastic way that Gawain and Percy connected. And in shock horror, I'm going to say something very scary. It's normal for people to like people of the same gender. I'd say the 3-letter word. I'd say Bex with an S at the front of it, but like I'm very scared. But that's normal. It's been a thing since humans have been a thing. It's been a thing since animals have been a thing. There's same gender cases of like connection across animals who are nowhere near as like it's just a thing. If you read anything about ancient Rome, ancient Greece, these supposed high peaks of original civilization, there was a lot. It's in the myths. It's in everything. It's just a universal thing. Humans have been liking humans of the same type of human since humans were humans. It's just a thing. It's natural. It's normal. And once again, Gawain could have just not known that because he wasn't all too worldly. Remember, this is the same series that just very recently had a throuple introduced, which is also very non-standard in the modern day and even in this time period. That is very non-normal, at least for beings that are not royalty, but like concubines and stuff like that. Like that's not normal, but still okay. It's normalized within this universe. It's fine. People are okay with it and support it. Heck, remember, we had one of our major characters who's a child of one of our previous titular characters literally transition from being non-binary to a woman. That's normal, and also a normal part of our world. That's perfectly okay, and Nakamura's treating that's perfectly okay. I find this weird, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll bring it up again, but there are people in our world who are like 6 foot plus, who only date and go after women who are beneath 5 feet. I think it's weird, but that is also somewhat normal, right? That's why whenever I complain about Bond and Lane, some people look at me funny, because like, this is normal, you know, people do that. People like short women, and like, I don't get it. I'm 6'2", and I want a woman who's like tall. I don't know. It feel weird. I don't know. It looks weird. Like, and I do have short friends, and it's weird whenever we go out together. Especially considering the one who I mentioned who's really small, and like I have to occasionally pick up and remove some scenarios. She's like multiple months older than me. So like I'm actually the baby relative to her, but I'm like thrice her size. So I don't know. It's weird. I've never dated her because she's really really small, even though she's hilarious. But still also gets in a lot of trouble. There are many reasons why I didn't date that woman, but still, that's normal. Same case. Let's see, is there anything else in Fortnite? It's not normal, at least in my opinion. It's not normal for a full-grown adult to be interested in not full-grown adults. I think that's very, very strange. I think it's very, very wrong. I think it's pretty much illegal in most contexts. Though, admittedly, once again, if you go back to some ancient societies, that was also normal, and there's some cultures today where it's still normalized. I think it's weird, though. I don't think it's the most controversial thing to say. If you are a full-grown adult and you don't get other full-grown adults and you want non-full-grown adults, you're weird. You're weird, and we gotta put you in jail. Like, no, never normal or a good thing. The fact that the child brides is a thing, which still happens on our modern planet. Yeah, disgusting. That's not normal. But heck, you know what did make it normal? Or at least they pretended to make it normal, played off as normal? Four Knights of the Apocalypse. Bond hearing that his full grown, like I'm talking nearly 30, what? Jericho must have been like 30, because Lance was 10, so 16. Jericho must have been like 26 at the time of going to the World Beyond Lance and coming out. Full-grown woman interested in a 10-year-old. Lance Bond said, that's normal. You're a man, she's a woman. That happens. That's not normal, but Four Knights normalized it. Note how all these different things are present in Four Knights. Some of them are normal in our world and normal in Four Knights, but a lot of these stuff in Four Knights is just normalized. These things happen, this, that, and the third. You know what can't be normal, though? Women liking women. Why? Merlin explains, you only fancy women thanks to a curse I placed on you as an infant. Why? Why would you do that? Nakaba. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why couldn't she have just liked women? What's the problem with that? What was the issue with that? Why could she just not like tall baddies? Why couldn't she just be like me, for real, for real? Why does that have to be a curse? Why couldn't that just be a part of her character? Oh, I know why, Naka. Because you're lazy. Because you're lazy and weird. Progressive in so many other ways. Like I said, things that are and should be normal, for the most part. Some of them, like, I do believe that you can love who you want to love in terms of, as long as you're a group of folk and living adults, being in whatever, be as polyamorous as you want. Double it, quadruple it, quintuple it, hextuple, do whatever you want. That's fine. You're all adults, do your thing. Perfectly fine with that. Transitioning, perfectly fine with that. If you don't feel comfortable in your own body, do whatever you need to do to make sure you are comfortable in your own body. You only get one body, do what you want with it. I don't like the height gap and the age gap stuff. That's weird. But that aside, well, you went on your way to normalize all that stuff, but liking people of the same gender, the same sex with an S at front, that has to be a curse? Why? Why? Oh, because you're lazy. The only reason I'm assuming Nakaba did this, instead of just having it a part of Gawain's character and another bit of she just wasn't worldly, and having it rather than do the complex thing where, oh, her liking women is just a part of her character, something that makes her unique and is a defining aspect of Gawain, and that's okay, and what she needs to do is find someone that she loves within that archetype that she specifically likes, or even just make it her bi. Or make her bi. You know, a lot of people are like, especially once Ball was introduced, a lot of people are like, you can just make her bi. That's fine. That's cool. No, Nakaba did this because he introduced Ball and he didn't feel like introducing any more characters around Gawain. That's it. I don't think there's going to be another member of the Gawain platoon. I was hoping she'd get a tall baddie and that would be her member. Like, that'd be the person she fell in love with. Lance already has Guinevere. As weird as it also was. But, like, Lance already has Guinevere, so fine. Percy has Anne and Nasians, fine. Tristan has Isolde, fine. But instead of actually introducing another female character to be of any sort of relevance, so Gawain could have a female love interest because she likes women, and that's just a normal part of the character that we're normalizing. Like, we're normalizing everything else within this manga Nakaba for one reason or another, even if it's weird stuff sometimes. Yeah, no, we're just gonna give her a big, strong, hunky man, and then make it so that her like woman was a curse and actually dumb and stupid and evil, and yeah, now she likes man meat. Because Merlin explains, I did so with loving intentions, mind you. I didn't want you to go through the pain I did, falling into a pit of misery thanks to impossible love. Thus I thought it best to banish any romantic interest in the opposite gender. And then Gawain is actually like, okay, but a curse? And Merlin literally casts the same gender lover away beam and says, curse liberation. Boom. I just removed the shackles, Gawain. I'm sorry. Quite a thin line between love and a curse. I'm hard headcaning that Dubs is aromantic and asexual. I'm not saying the full word, I'm scared. But we see that Balin says, do you feel different now? And Gawain says, no, it doesn't seem like anything's changed. And then Balin gets close enough to do something I don't think he's ever done before. I don't think. He's like moved her around before and put her on his shoulder, but like never this close. But he gets close and they touch faces together. And then Gawain says, whoa, too close and too musky. And Balin says, why this now? Obviously just because Nak was lazy. And like, here's the thing, I love Balin. I think Balin's cool. What prevented Balin from being a muscle mommy? Why couldn't you just make Balin a Matrona type character? Just an extremely buff, extremely powerful character with the same ability, same everything, same personality, all that cool. Why can't you just be a woman? Nakaba, I'm fine. I'm fine with you being lazy. You know, I'll be honest. Nakaba, I'm fine with you being lazy. You're already writing, 12 other characters? Sure. 11. Like, major characters who are all, like, traveling with the Four-Knight. Fine, you're doing all that. Cool. Why couldn't you have made Balin a woman? You didn't even keep the same name for all I care. Why can't you make Balin a woman? Make Balin an extremely tall, muscular, muscle mommy. And then have Gawain fall in love with her. Instead of a man. Why does Gawain have to like men? Why, por qué no los dos? Why couldn't she be bi? Why couldn't she like bi? Why does her liking people of the same, why does that have to be a curse? When everything, like, that's the thing, right? Maybe Maybe. If Seven Deadly Sins and Four Knights weren't so progressive in literally almost everything else, realize two of our main characters are literally the result of interspecies crossbreeding on like multiple levels in the case of Tristan and between a human and a fairy, like we have that. We have Nasians being the child of a fairy and a giant. We have the thruple. We have the transition. We have everything. So many other progressive things in Four Knights and Seven Deadly Sins. Why can a character just not be bi? Why can a character just not be? Yeah. Why can they? Why? I don't get it. Other than sheer laziness, it just makes Gawain a less interesting character. You could have introduced him. You made it as simple as it could be. You sucked out any last bit of intrigue that could exist for what? What is gained by making this a curse? You have anything? I got nothing. Zilch, zip, no. I got nothing. I have no idea what this does other than make Gawain less, like, not even less interesting, right? Because, people can like the same, they can like different. I personally like different. I can respect a good handsome gentleman here or there, but I'm not physically attracted to that. But still, that's fine. It's normal. Same case that liking the same is normal. Why couldn't it just be normal? Why do we have to make it a curse? And that just gets undone with one tap that, like, literally the anti... We're real late. The anti... Same X level... Like, why? It doesn't make sense within the context of Seven Deadly Sins and Four Knights. If it was an infinitely more conservative manga, then maybe I'd be like, okay, fine, conservatism. But with how progressive this manga is, it just feels so weird and random. And it feels, and once again, I tackle it specifically from a laziness front, because I'm like, the thing is, you could have been lazier in a more creative way. You could have just made Balin a woman. You could have made Balin just a super duper strong woman, and everything would be fine. You could remove this problem, and it couldn't matter. You could even keep the moment, right, where Gawain's like, I just can't love anybody. And then Balina would be like, or Balin, who's just a woman now, would be like, well, you can love people. People love you, and you love them as friends and stuff like that. And then Gawain could ask, well, then why do I only like women? And Merlin's like, you just like women. Stuff happens. That's who you are. You're an individual. You're different from other people, but that makes you you. You could have literally had a moment where Gawain is more affirmed as her own individual instead of just normie. But no. It's a curse. Of course it's a curse. Because heaven forbid not anything overly too progressive. Even though, literally, that's the least progressive thing. I just don't like it. I think it's a weird, dumb choice that speaks to Nakamo's laziness. That's it. It could be so easily avoided by just having Gawain like women and then introduce another woman character that Gawain could actually fall in love with. And or just make Balin a woman. You could have done either of those. You could have still been... But making Balin a woman is the lazier choice, but still would have worked without, like, undermining Gawain's character, making him more than, like, even worse of a person. You're going to take away your daughter's ability to feel love for a whole group of people, very specifically, because you didn't like how your experience went. So heaven forbid your daughter, who's a separate individual from you, have her own individual experiences in life and developments. So all this is bad. It makes Gawain just less interesting. It makes Merlin a worse person than she already was. It's just horrific. But we're never gonna talk about it. It's never gonna matter, right? Never gonna matter at all. Because we see it's gonna go since it's over, right? It's just a plot point. Now we're done. Now Gawain can go on to loving man meet forever. Escanor goes, Gawain, and Merlin says, I know this is coming far too late, but can you forgive us? And I don't know why you say us, Merlin. This is all your fault. You did this. Literally, Escanor's not responsible for any of this. You had a child without his consent. You revived him in a puppet body without his consent. Didn't give him a new body without his consent. And now forced him into secrecy in regards to his own daughter that he didn't have any participation in making. All without his own consent. But you forgive us? Forgive you, Merlin. You're the terrible person here. You did everything wrong. This whole plot is literally your fault. But we see Gawain say, no! And Escanor begins to somehow sweat through his puppet body and droop, while Merlin just looks on completely unfazed, because Merlin isn't a human. And we see that she goes, Dad! Mom! And then the doll does seem to have a slight change in expression and look a bit more happiness as Escanor looks excited to be called Dad. And Gawain lunges in and hugs her parents. Very beautiful image, very beautiful panel. Good enough, right? Real solid chapter so far. Other than the anti, minus the let's make Gawain a less interesting and more generic basic character, so Nakba doesn't have to write another female character button. Instead of
in spite of just hitting that ray, maybe the chapter can still be saved. The chapter could be peak. Could be peak somehow, some way. We haven't really had a secret yet, just technically, except for maybe that secret beam right there. We see Ballin smile, Golder smiles, Dubs is very confused, but still seems indifferent. As she says, if you want me to forgive you, then hold me tight until I say it's okay to let go. And we see that Escanor says, oh, how I've longed to hug you with my real body, Gawain. Oh, Escanor, if only the woman who trapped you in that horrific, non-interactable physical form could have given you a new body. If only she could create life, real, actual, sentient, physical, growing life. If only she could do that. Oh, wait. She can, she just didn't. She's a terrible person, Escanor. I know many people like Escanor who love toxic women. Fix it. Fix it. Yes, I'm looking at you, person who's watching this, who also happens to like toxic women or toxic people. Fix it. Stop it. Stop it. Have self-respect. Stop it. Doesn't matter if they're bad. They're bad people, too. Stop it. But we see Gawain says, that doesn't matter, Dad. You're still you, and Mom's still Mom. So, where are you, Mom? And we see Merlin look on completely indistinct, right? And Gawain says, you have a way to fight back against the chaos, right? I don't know why they keep calling it the chaos. Almost as if it's not Arthur, right? Like Chaos King Arthur. Not Arthur, right? It would have to be Arthur, right? Chaos King Arthur? The human Arthur infused with chaos, right? That would have to be it. Well, we see Merlin smile, seemingly in her original form, and she says, if that's what you seek, then come to me. Because, of course, Merlin can't do anything but make characters suffer and put them in bad situations, then leave them and abandon them when it's convenient for the plot. But we see that Gawain actually asks, but how, Mom? And I do like the fact that Merlin is caressing Gawain's hair like she was earlier caressing Gawain's hair in the chapter when she was a newborn, and then just rolls her cheeks in hand. And we see that Merlin explains, the key is inside of you. And she rolls Gawain's face in hand, and then suddenly twitches and says, oh, I'm sorry. I need to enter auto mode for a while. And then she abandons her daughter again. No explanation, no nothing. Just abandons her daughter. Even as her daughter calls out to her, and it's like, Mom? Mom? Leaving her alone again. Because, Merlin doesn't care. Merlin's not actually, like, a human being with, like, a beating heart. Right? No, like, she's just a terrible person. And we see that she doesn't, like, she puts the thing into auto mode and doesn't even give her daughter any sort of explanation. And the doll says, returning to the ship and commencing cleaning. And Gawain once again asks, Mom, you're not leaving again, are you? You're not going to abandon me again, are you? Mom, you're not going to be a terrible person again, are you? And we see Merlin smile, knowing she's going to be a terrible person. And she says, I'll be waiting, Gawain. Doesn't give any explanation to how Gawain actually could reach her, by the way. Just says the key is inside you and then dips. Terrible character, terrible person. But we see she stands up from whatever desk she's at, talking through a ball. I'm not sure if this ball is meant to be all in, it's just not colored in, or just a ball. And she taps over to an individual. And let's just read through this entire interaction. So, you're finally awake. Hey, Merlin. How long was I asleep for? Oh, around 2 years. You've lost quite a bit of your strength. How's the fight going? It's not looking great, no. I see. But don't worry, there's still hope. Percival has come back, and the other three are more powerful than ever before. With them on our side, we can do it. We can regain Britannia, and you as well, Arthur Pendragon, my one and only master. Now, I won't bring it up yet. This is Arthur Pendragon, King of Camelot. It's a supposed King of Chaos. But, this doesn't look like the Arthur Pendragon. This guy actually looks like he's, what would he be now? 36? I mean, he looks rough for a 36, but also he hasn't eaten. But, this is a 36-year-old man. Unlike the perpetually 16-year-old Arthur we've seen. Also, this guy clearly looks a little bit too gaunt and, was asleep for 2 years, so definitely couldn't be wielding the power of chaos over the time like we've seen Arthur doing. Uh-oh. Do you remember when Chaos Arthur said that he cast out that insipid human side of him in that chapter I didn't review. I think that's literally one of the rare chapters I didn't review. But Arthur had previously said in the previous chapter that he had cast out that insipid human side of him. This is the real Arthur. What we're seeing, presumably, is Arthur just Chaos wearing Arthur's face. So all the hypothetical interesting character development that Arthur could have had off screen, all of the complications that would have come with saving Arthur, considering he has instilled such horrible tragedies and actions upon all of Britannia, all the complications that came with like a truly interesting villain, has been replaced with a faceless, nameless, primordial power wearing the face of Arthur. Arthur himself? No, he's the perfect goody two-shoes that never does anything wrong. He's just been a victim the entire time. He's not the real villain. No. He can never be the real villain. Arthur's too perfect. He can't do anything wrong. You thought Arthur could do something wrong? What story are you reading? This is Seven Deadly Sins, Four Knights. A perfect adaptation of Arthurian legend where Arthur can do nothing wrong. Even though in some adaptations of Arthurian legend, Arthur does a bunch of stuff wrong. I don't like this. And the reason I don't like it is because I don't care about chaos. I'll be honest. And I'll be come real close. Come real close. Let me explain you something even crazier that may blow your mind even a little bit more. I don't care about Arthur either. You can even see it. I like Arthur's potential as an antagonist. Because I was like, oh, something must have happened to him. I'm very interested to get the backstory to explain why he's like this. I want to see the lore in the news and the understand. Like, I want to gain a better understanding of Arthur. That seems very, very interesting. I can't wait to understand why Arthur went down this path of darkness, using the power of chaos to chaos possibly corrupt him. Is it a possible symbiosis thing? Is Kath having anything to play in this? All that. That was all under the pretense that Arthur was still in control. That Arthur was still a character. That Arthur was still involved in the narrative. But clearly he hasn't been. He's been asleep for 2 years. He hasn't even been a part of the battle. He's in an entirely separate world from Camelot or Leonis. Entirely separate dimension, presumably. Arthur's never been in control. Arthur's never been the antagonist. It's just something, presumably chaos, wearing Arthur's face. So that's not interesting characterization for Arthur. That's just base characterization for chaos, and I don't care. And Arthur's interest as a character, for me, has fallen off a cliff too. I do not care about Arthur. At all. He was barely a character in original Seven Deadly Sins. Now knowing that he hasn't had any characterization until now, this chapter 216, horrific. And this is what I talk about when I mention Nakaba just cutting his nose off despite his face. Two cases of characters being interesting and possibly leading to new developments and new dynamics, with Gawain, liking women and just being a part of who she is as an individual, and her coming to accept that because of her lack of experience before, but her gaining experience allows her to realize who she truly is and how she should embrace that rather than run away from it. No. It was an evil curse that we need to dispel. Because how dare she like people of the same gender? Arthur was actually an interesting and complex character that underwent a moral downslide and thusly needs to have sense beaten into him, and also needs to better understand and relearn the power of connection between the different races. No. He's a victim to his own power. And lost it all. Has been nothing but an empty, worthless, chaosless husk, sleeping away the problems as the chaos that wreaks cause. Merlin was a character who made one big mistake off of one big issue and thusly has done everything in her power to repent. No. Merlin made a mistake in letting Escanor go by her desperate attempt to slay the Demon King. Did not save him in any way, shape, or form. Only proceed to take his body, then make a child, once again, without presumably any of his consent, using a forbidden spell, breaking a taboo, and then revive the same man, except instead of giving him a body, using that same taboo-breaking life creation magic, forced him into a vessel, and then proceeded to limit her daughter for 18 years of her life, her entire existence, because of bad experience she had. Heaven forbid her daughter live a normal life. Let me curse my own child. Also, Escanor has no autonomy. He's just a puppet. He's a boy toy, literally. Balin only exists to be a big, strong, hunky man, so Gawain can fall in love with some man meat, because we can't have Gawain love women. And Balin can't be a woman either, just to have Gawain love women. Here's the sword. The sword of worthiness. I think this is the first time I'm ever saying this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've been reviewing Four Knights for a while now. But This chapter's not worthy. It takes all these complex characters and just makes one of them just an even infinitely worse person than Merlin. Just an infinitely worse person who takes no responsibility for their actions and then does more horrific things instead of actually, being a better person. It turns one of my favorite characters into a autonomyless boy toy who just goes along with anything their dommy mommy says. I know some people be into that, not me. It takes Ballin, a character who I really, really like, and puts him into a position I really didn't want him to be in. I would have loved him just being a boy best friend. That would have been fine. Or just Gawain being bi. That's also fine. But no, he's just a big hunk of man. He's now nothing. Like, Ballin, he's more nothing than he ever was. And I really, really liked Ballin. I thought he was cool. But now now that I see his true purpose, I'm now, like, Ballin he's hurt meta-narratively, not actual in-narrative. Ballin's done nothing wrong, but now he's also hurt worse. Gawain lost just an interesting, complex side to her character, all for the sake of a curse for no reason. And Arthur's not a character. He's still just perfect goody two-shoes Arthur. Has never done anything wrong ever. And it's actually just the mean, evil chaos thing that Merlin unleashed upon him, mind you. She essentially groomed Arthur to be the vessel of chaos, only to lose chaos and everything, and lose everything he was, and now live in a consistent state of coma and suffering because, oh no, he's just a goody two-shoes good boy. He can never do anything evil. He can never be bad. Oh. And I'm supposed to care. I don't care about Arthur. I don't like Merlin. I feel bad for Ballin. I feel bad for Escanor. And I feel bad for Gawain for having to deal with Merlin and their poor actions and their poor choices and everything. Chapter's not worthy. Kind of buns. This is literally, honestly, and I may need to reread the entire duology, but I'm saying this now because I thought about it in between the live reaction and the review here now. This is my least favorite chapter in the entire duology. For over nearly 600 chapters. This is my least favorite. It does so much damage to multiple characters. And it takes a very interesting plot and waters it down. Can this Arthur thing be saved with context? Maybe. We'll see what next chapter has to say. Who knows? We may cut away. I don't know what's going to happen next chapter. We may genuinely cut away, and we may not get an explanation of this for a while. Considering Merlin didn't tell Gawain anything on how to reach her, just said, oh, the key's inside you, Deuce's daughter. So she didn't say anything. But we may even cut away, and we're going to get no context for this. But I'm not sure context can save this. It's that bad. And it's that damaging to the narrative. And obviously the Gawain thing can't be saved. That's just bad. That's just bad writing. Like, that's bad and lazy writing. So, like, the Gawain thing, her not like women, and her like women being hurt, like, that's just bad. So, like, bad chapter. Straight. Did I say flat? Like, you know what? I think it flat, like, they're, you know what? No, it's like a 1 out of 10 or like a 2 out of 10 at most. Because I like the moments of Merlin being motherly, and like Escanor being happy, and I like Gawain being happy, and Balling being happy for that. I like the happiness. I like some of the character work, but the rest of the character work is either so bad and so detrimental. I just don't like it. Gother and Dubs are really part of the, like this is like a 2 out of 10 chapter. It's really bad. I just don't like it. But I'm going to do the review. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already seen this video, please leave "That's just whack." Leave "That's just whack" in the comment section down below. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you even have a picture down below. Use what me for as well as more to get a month a month. He links to exclusive videos, early content, and more. So now become a member of the channel for as well as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. It's about 33 minutes long. Live reactions to every previous chapter and every future chapter of Four Knights of the Apocalypse on top of brain. Oh, early access to literally all videos, early ad-free access to all videos. Literally, I try to record every single video in advance. This one took a while just because I was very busy this week, so I didn't really have time to record it. But luckily enough, videos for not just this channel or early ad-free access, and not just videos for this channel, but even the second channel that got the reaction, which will be linked in the description down below. I drop reaction videos that range from like 40 minutes to 2 hours long every Saturday at 1 p.m. EST over there. You get early access to all those videos as well when you become a member over here. On top of that, you get your name at the end of literally every single video. And if you're a $3 member or higher, you get your name read aloud at the end of every single video. And then what else am I missing? Stroke the beard. Think about it. What else am I missing? I think those are basically all the benefits. And also, if you want to drop 5 beans for a short video or 25 beans for a long video, you can go to the Ko-Fi in the description to drop it for the one time. And now, I want to thank you so much for watching. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Gyomi, Bura Ura, Enzo, Swift Strike, Superflame Zero, Yuki Ally, Azo2404, Striker Man, Grim, Straw, Ollie, The Boy, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Magic, CCC, Ramondo Furen, Dino, Axis XZ, Plant Crone, Pickle, Heath Nelson, Hector Gonzalez, P-Sub, Black Sage, Zapro, Tim Thomas, Alex Kenny, Kaving, Julian Perez, H-Soe, Aqualade Bamatunde, Union I, RXN, Nevis97, Sheesh King, Logan Guzman, Karina Hernandez, Window Life, Dead Meme, Karudir, and Reina. Then I'd like to give a thank you to Artline Art Tier patrons: A+A, Kevin Encarnacion, Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Dreadzoan, and Norgazi Adasov. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink Tier members: King RTX and Shrimpo the 4th Shrimp 06. And I'd like to give a thank you to our Digital Art Tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a final thank you to our Colored Art Tier patrons: Walking Munoz and Walking Munoz.